told this story a few times within the group that, so I'm a professional flute teacher. This is what I do, you know, as my full-time job. Several years ago, when I was just getting out of college, I was just finishing my music degree. I got super, super, super duper burnout, and I quit my flute for several years. And, as I came back to it, so I decided to pick it back up, I think late 2018, early 2019. And, I decided to kind of go all in. I was like, I need to get this back because this is what I love and this is what I do. And a part of me left when I decided to set it aside. But the hard part was kind of just beginning, right? So I had this expectation of what I used to sound like and how I used to play. And stepping back into it after a couple of years of not playing was jarring. And I think the big thing that one of the big reasons why I created that group was because, we are 90% of the time when we're starting back for our mental health, right? We're starting back because we want to do something that we enjoy and we loved it at one point. We want to come back to it. And a lot of times we end up not being as kind to ourselves in that process. And I think it's really important that we are very kind, right? So with the practice challenges, I like to just do little things, right? Like the breathing. We're building back stamina, we're building back lung strength, things that we maybe had before that we lost at this point, and that's okay, right? And the breathing was a big one for me too. I had COVID in late 2020, and I struggled a lot with my lung support after that. Still do. So, this was a big this was an important one. Sorry, I've got my
Oh,
Saint Bernard, and she's down here. She likes to sit at my feet while I teach. Oh, hello. I've got three. My other two are in with my husband because they're
Saint
obsessed with
Bernard,
him.
three
So
Saint
my
Bernard. Are you crazy?
no, I
Oh,
have one Saint Bernard, I have a Belgian Malinois, and a German short-haired pointer.
must
They're all
like
big
running.
dogs though. My
You must
husband
like
does.
running.
He goes running with her all the time. My other two, my Saint Bernard and my Belgian Mal, they're both seniors, so they don't do
Oh,
as much
okay.
running. But my little girl, she loves to go running with him. But so on the topic of breath support, there's a lot of things that working on the breath support can help with, not just with our tone, not just with our projection, but also with coming back to that mindset, that mental health mindset, right? Coming back to the idea that we are mindful, we are here, we are paying attention to what's going on in our playing, rather than just kind of going through the motions, paying attention to how our body feels. It sounds like you are very in tune with what's going on when you said, I'm feeling exhausted, I need to cut this short. And that is a totally acceptable thing to say when you're practicing as well. Like, okay, I'm feeling not okay. I need to cut it short. That's okay. I know that a lot of times we encourage to push beyond your breaking point. I don't love that. I would say if you're feeling tired, push a little more. But once you feel like you're exhausted, you're not getting anything positive done, right?
The
You're just going to
notes were
burn
not,
yourself out.
the notes were not
What's
coming
that?
out. Like it's hot, it's slipping off my lip,
Right.
blowing, and it's like I'm done.
Yeah, you're frustrated. It's not connecting, right? So with being very aware of that is super important. And I love that you're already on that, kind of you're thinking about that. So with the idea of the breath support, sorry, there we go. With the challenge this week that I proposed to everybody, I wanted us to incorporate some box breathing into our practice. And here's the thing. I also like to tell my students that if you're practicing breathing, that counts as practice, right? There is non-playing practice, right? There's listening practice, there's theory, there's all kinds of things that you can do that do not physically involve you having your flute in your hands and making sound, that can help you and count towards practice time, right? And this is one of them. So incorporating mindful breathing techniques, help to improve focus. They help to improve breath control, right? So our control of how much air is going into our flute. And then, of course, our performance and our anxiety towards performance, right? So what I like to do is starting with a technique called box breathing. We're working to one, build our lung strength, but also we're bringing ourselves into the present moment and we're getting ourselves ready to play our flute, right? We're ignoring the phone, we're setting everything aside and we're going, okay, I'm right here. I'm going to focus on my breath and we are going to go. Now, I want to talk about what box breathing is. Have you ever done any sort of box breathing before?
Yeah, all the time at work, especially when things get stressful.
There you go.
Yeah,
Perfect. So
before
you understand.
they're like, okay, take a minute for deep breathing.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
I work for a subsidiary of a law firm. Well, one
Oh,
company, another, they have to exchange documents. That's called e-discovery. That's what I
okay.
do.
Yes, I could see how that would be one of those that breathing
Lawyers.
techniques is a great skill to have.
But I thought of that to apply towards the flute. So that's,
Yeah.
and since I've had various illnesses and major heart surgery and my lungs aren't what they used to be. So
Yeah.
this is helpful to know.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is actually one of my favorite exercises for building lung strength, understanding control, breath control. So just because I am going to post this, I know that you know what box breathing is, but I am going to try to post this in the group. So I am going to explain it as though you've never done it before. So box breathing, in essence, we are going to breathe for, let's say, 4 counts. We're going to breathe in for 4. We're going to hold for 4. We're going to breathe out for 4. And we're going to hold for 4. And what I want you to pay close attention to is the fact that you are managing your breath so that you are able to breathe in for 4 counts, right? So we're not just, right? We're not just, you know, filling our lungs in on one little, right? We're going to slowly breathe in. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe in until we're full down here. We're going to hold, then we're going to exhale with control. So I like to start with 4, and then I like to slowly increase this. So we're probably going to go to like 6 or 7 counts, but we're going to start easy. We're going to start with 4. So we're going to go ahead and do this a little bit together. All right. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start in counts of 4. So ready? Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Beautiful. Beautiful. So a couple of ways that we can improve this would be, I like to breathe in through my mouth, but I also like to alternate breathing in through my nose and in through my mouth. The reason why I primarily like to breathe through my mouth is because I struggle with a lot of throat tension. So breathing in through my mouth allows me to pay close attention to these throat and neck muscles and open the throat quite a bit, almost like we're yawning, right? So still breathing in with control, still breathing out with control. All right. But if you can breathe in through your nose, do that also. I have allergies, so nose is not always great for me. All right. So we're going to go to 5 now. So we're going to inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Nice job. The other thing I want you to think about is the fact that when you are inhaling, your rib cage can flex. It's normal. There's cartilage in there that is designed to flex out, right? So we don't have to be afraid of feeling that stretch in our lower ribs, right? Feeling that stretch down here, allowing our diaphragm to fully expand and flatten, right? So our diaphragm is a flat muscle, or it's a muscle that sits underneath your lungs at the bottom of your rib cage. And as you inhale, it flattens, opening your lungs, right? Opening that area of your body to allow your lungs to take in more air. And then as you exhale, it goes back into a mushroom shape to help push air out, right? So allowing that muscle to flatten, allowing it to come up and push air out. So I like to have that visual. Personally, I'm a very visual human. I like to have that visual as I am working on that breath work. I'm going to take a little bit of a sip of water because it is hot today. I don't know about where you're at. It is hot in Southern California. It's not nearly as hot here as it is in Indiana, though, which is crazy to me. All right. So just want to make sure that I've hit all of my points here. So as we are connecting and applying this to flute playing, one, again, this is building our lung strength, right? We are building that lung expansion. We are allowing more air to come into the lungs, right? We're learning how to hold it for longer. And then we're learning how to control it on the exhale, right? We're not just dumping all of our air into the flute, right? We're learning to conserve our air while also supporting. So we're going to go for 6 now. I'm going to push us a little bit. All right. Ready? Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. So the idea is that we're filling from the bottom up, right? So we don't want to immediately have our chest rise. We don't want to do this. We want to fill from the bottom and then allow our chest to rise just a little bit.
Last one, I actually feel a little lightheaded. Do
Okay. What's that?
you have that happen at all?
It can happen sometimes if we are going too fast, right? So if we're dumping, if we're going, right? And then we're dumping too fast, that's where we get that lightheadedness, right? Because we start to go into the hyperventilation, right? But if we're controlling on the exhale, we're not dumping all that air out, right? So conserving, just being, but if you start to feel too lightheaded, take a break, right? So again, as we're building, we kind of need to find the sweet spot and work it, right? So if you're finding that 5 counts to 6 counts is kind of the sweet spot for you, right? Practicing that every day until you find that you're not lightheaded on the 6, right? And then we move on to 7. But again, making sure that we're not dumping our air, right? We're not hyperventilating, right? We're controlling on the exhale. Ooh, it is hot here.
It was high 90s. Caught a break today where it's low 80s, but a cool wind, heavy wind blowing.
Oh, yeah. It got up into the 80s today, which so Southern California homes don't often have air conditioning. So that's kind of where we're at. So, because it doesn't really get that hot here, honestly. I thought it would, but it really doesn't. It stays around 70, so like a lot of places just don't have AC, which I was blown away by. I was like, what do you mean you don't have AC? We're on the border of Mexico. But so, all right. Keep water close by always when you're practicing, but especially when it's hot, making sure that we're taking care of our bodies. If we are dehydrated, that will translate into our flute playing and our tone. It'll actually, being dehydrated will translate into everything, right? So every part of your playing will be affected if you're not drinking enough water. I'm going to go on this little rant for just a second. As we were talking about overall health, if you are dehydrated, your fingers are not going to move the same. Your brain is not going to connect to the music the same. Your lungs are not going to work the same. And your lips are not going to work the same. Your embouchure is going to suffer. So make sure that we're drinking lots of water throughout the day and especially while we practice. All right, we're going to do one more. We're going to go to 7. If you don't feel like you can go to 7, that is totally okay. We're going to do this. We're going to go to 7 and we're going to work to expand just a little bit more, right? Feel that extension of the rib cage and the lungs. Ready? All right, inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Perfect. Beautiful job. So again, I find that practicing box breathing in the very beginning of my practice is really, really useful for a couple of reasons. One, we're going to really hone in on the breath, right? There's very little way that you're going to be thinking about other things as you are like, fighting for your life, practicing for some of those breath exercises. So we're kind of coming into the moment, right? We are focusing on the breath. We are thinking about what the breath is doing, right? We're thinking about how we can expand and make it better. But we're also expanding our lungs, right? We're also warming up those lungs and we're building that breath support and control. So I really like to start out my practice. I like to start my lessons with some stretching and with some breathing. And that's what I do to kind of bring us into the moment, right? And get us ready, get our bodies ready, and get our minds ready to play the flute. So the other thing that you can do, if you have your flute handy, is practice box breathing with your flute, right? So we're going to pick our favorite note. I'm going to play an F, whatever note that may be. And we're going to push all the air out of our lungs. And we're going to breathe in for 5. Ready? We're going to hold. And we're going to exhale. Okay. Now, if there's still air left in your lungs, that's great. Right? That's a great sign. Now, what you can also do, a little bit of a variation on box breathing, is you can extend that exhale, right? So you could say, I'm going to breathe in for 5. I'm going to exhale for 6. I'm going to breathe in for 5. I'm going to exhale for 7. If you are practicing it with your flute in your hand or without your flute, that's a great way too. So we're going to breathe in. Hold. Beautiful. So again, you can slowly start to extend that number on the exhale. And if you are finding that you are ending up with tons of air left over in your lungs as you're practicing this, know that you could be further supporting your sound, right? You can send more air. You can play louder and more supported, right? So that's something that I struggle with, again, ever since I had COVID. So is that supporting of my sound. So as I was breathing out just then, I got to 6 and I went, there's still air left in my lungs. So I could have ultimately given more to my sound, right?
That is a side question I have, and one thing that I was to be working on this past week, going from piano to forte and down. And I find that I'm blowing harder to get louder, but it
Right.
seems like I'm supposed to put more air to it. I'm not quite sure how to do that.
So we do have to send more air through, right? So we have to activate our diaphragm. And a lot of times it comes down to a little bit faster air, right? So using your diaphragm to push. So right? Is that kind of what you're trying to do? But you're finding yourself pushing more here? Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
Using your yeah. So a lot of times what people end up doing when they're trying to push more air is they push more with their throat, right? So they go, right? But in order to actually send more air through, we have to enact this, we have to push this diaphragm and keep our throat open, right? So we kind of have to think about that yawning mechanism, that, right? So pushing more with the belly and the diaphragm than pushing with the throat.
I just tried that a little bit, and I think with practice I can get that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was an awesome question. Thank you for asking. So again, the overall goal here with this practice is to start bringing a little bit of mindfulness into our practice, right? Just bringing a little bit of this presence in the beginning, right? We are improving the breath control. We're working with the diaphragm more. We're being more conscious of what's going on in the belly, in the lungs, with the diaphragm, instead of just kind of going through the motions, right? So a lot of times I'm guilty of this as a teacher. I will just say, like, support your sound, support your sound. What does that mean, right? What does that actually mean? So this type of exercise is going to help you kind of learn what that means in your body, right? Because everybody processes that a little bit differently, right? So this, I hope, will help with that. Also, with supporting our tone, or with supporting and improving our breath support, we're able to build some consistency in our tone, right? And again, back to that mindfulness idea, we start thinking and paying attention and listening to our breath, listening to our bodies, listening to our tone a little bit more closely. And again, we are going to improve that consistency of our tone. A lot of times we have this tendency to just kind of run through, right? We're like, I got to do long tones. So I'm just going to, right? We're not paying any attention. We're just kind of running through it. Whereas the idea with starting with some breath work is that, okay, now I know what my lungs are supposed to do, and I'm going to watch that as I'm going through these long tones, right? I'm going to watch that as I'm going through in my tone work and whatnot.
It looked like you were playing, but nothing was coming through.
Oh, sorry. That's my fault. Um, I forgot to turn original sound on. That's a thing that I do a lot. So if I do that in future meetings, jump in and tell me, Cassie, turn your sound on. But yeah, what I was just demonstrating was that a lot of times we kind of go through our long tones just in a very fast, just right? We're not really engaging with the practice, right? Whereas if we start with some box breathing and we're paying attention to what's going on in our lungs, then we can really start to apply that to our long tones, and we can, oh, wow. Right? We're listening and we're focusing on what's going on in the lungs. Because if we're able to pay attention to what's going on in the lungs, we're able to apply that directly to what's going on in our tone. So, the challenge for this week that we started on Friday, we're going to go through to this coming Friday, would be to work on this box breathing and do it every time you practice for just a couple of minutes in the very beginning, right? And really challenge yourself to focus, right? Turn off the TV, put your phone on silent, put away all the distractions, and just pay attention to what your body is telling you during this breathing exercise, right? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling pain? Are you feeling normal exercising kind of tension? Are you feeling lightheaded? And if that's happening, what do we need to do? Do we need to rest in this place, in this number that we have found, and then in a week increase it? And then again, this can kind of give you a really good feel of how you're feeling going into your practice. Be very, very, very kind to yourself. This takes time, right? This is not a short term fix for anything. Nothing in being a musician has a short term fix, right? There is no such thing as a become a great flutist overnight, right? But we can do little things that can make the practice more enjoyable, that can make us more mindful, and can get us paying attention to what's going on in our bodies. And again, take care of our lungs a little bit. So, our lungs is the most important thing that we have, right? It is the most important thing that we have as flute players, are our lungs. Doesn't matter if you are the fastest, if you have the fastest fingers in all of the world, it does not matter if your tone is meh, or if your phrasing is meh, right? So much comes back to this lung support. So this is going to be a great way to increase that, and again, build a little bit of mindfulness into our practice. So the challenge would be, again, to incorporate just a couple of minutes. If you have 5 minutes at the beginning of your practice, do this, right? If you only have 2 minutes, you've got plenty of time, right? This does not take an incredible amount of time. But you can also take a step back. We talked about building some stamina, right? And if you're kind of struggling with, man, I'm sounding bad, I'm really tired, take a step back, put your flute on the stand, and come back to this breathing exercise, right? Bring yourself back into the present, give your mind a little bit of a break, give your body a little bit of a break, and also do something good for you and for your playing in that time. So just sitting straight up. I do want to talk about the posture a little bit. With these breathing exercises, we're going to use the same posture that we would when we were sitting and playing. We're going to let our head just rest on top of our spine. We're not going to hold it. We're not going to lean. We're not going to slouch, right? We're going to try to be as straight up and down as possible, confident, right? We're going to be confident in the way that we sit, in the way that we present ourselves while we're playing our flute, right? Thinking about that confidence is going to help us sit better, breathe better, be better. So yeah, if we can, at the very beginning of our practice, incorporate just a little bit of this breath work. If you're feeling tired in the middle or towards the end, you can use it as a break, right? As a pause. I'm just going to do some breath work. And you can also use it as a cool down to kind of bring yourself back out of the practice, right? I like to think of practicing my flute as a bubble, right? I'm stepping into the bubble and then I'm stepping back out of the bubble when I'm done, right? This is because I need to have a world of practice around me, right? So I think that's actually about all that I have right this second. Do we have any questions so far? Want to share any experiences? I know that you have some experience with box breathing. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
It's for the mindfulness, stress relief. So again, before we go into any technology meeting, we start with a minute of mindful breathing, focus, clear your head, incorporate with
Oh,
quick practice.
sorry, we're kind of cutting out. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, you're back.
better.
Yay. Sorry.
So before each of our tech meetings, we take a minute for mindful breathing.
That's
Um,
great.
Typically, you can choose any style, but box is a common one.
Yeah.
So this is helpful to know to incorporate into flute practice. Because again, I get a bit excited. I'm back to it. I want to go, 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 go. Slow down, and just breathe.
Slow down, meet yourself where you are, right? And again, I say this all the time. I say this in the group. I say this to my students. Be so, so kind to yourself, especially in a restart. It is so easy to let yourself kind of get frustrated with where you feel like you should be in your playing. I was very guilty of that. My teacher at the time was like, "Hey, you have to be realistic. You're gonna get back there. It's just gonna take a little bit of time, right?" So, yeah, this is a great way to bring yourself into the moment and really, set an intention to be very kind to yourself before your lesson, before your practice. So I'm going to challenge everybody who's watching this to, again, take a couple of minutes at the beginning of your practice to practice this box breathing. And then again, if you are having some trouble in the middle, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling frustrated, take a couple of minutes to do it again, right? And then at the end, if you need a solid cool down, do it again, right? There is, and on days when you don't have the time or the capacity to practice, it is totally acceptable to use a breathing exercise like this to help with that. A couple of other things outside of the realm of mindfulness and like these breathing exercises, tools that you can use. If you've never heard of Kathy Blockey's Pneumo Pro, this is incredible. Many flute teachers use them at this point, but this is just basically to help you learn how to, one, direct your air, but also learn how to support, right? So these little fans, you're supposed to isolate each fan. Well, these two fans, really. Or I guess these three. This fan
Can
should
you
never.
share to that, please, on the page?
So the Pneumo Pro is amazing, but one of the cool things that some people forget about is that we're not just looking for the airstream direction, right? So I've isolated this red fan. We're also looking for strength because it will make a very distinct hum when you're sending enough air through, which is awesome. This thing is great. So I will definitely share this on the page. The other one would be a breath builder. Mine is not handy right now, but I will share it to the page as well. It is just basically a giant tube with a ping pong ball in it. That the idea is that you are breathing into it and keeping the ping pong ball at the top. Very popular in hospitals and yep. But we use those too. And they are super helpful if you are looking to, really, really amp it up and build the breath support. Be careful, as always, with anything like that. If you can overdo it. So, just be very mindful of where you're at and be very kind to yourself. I'm going to say that over and over and over again. Be very, very, very kind to yourself. And I would recommend keeping a journal of your experience with this. Right? Just taking some notes and saying, okay, well, today I was at 5. A week from now I'm at 6, 7, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's actually all that I have for today.
What I love most about flute playing is that it clears my head. I work in
That's
tech.
awesome.
I got all this crap and stress running through my head.
Yeah,
Baking, playing the piano, and now flute playing can focus just on that, and it's a wonderful feeling.
that's amazing. I love that. And,
But why can't I be a pro overnight?
what's that?
Why can't I be a pro overnight?
I think that I talk about that a lot too on my channel, that there is, particularly for the flute teachers that follow me, right? I talk to them a lot about like the balance of the fact that most of our students do this for their mental health. And we, to an extent, we do this for our mental health. We do this because we love it. And so there are times where it's really easy to get sucked into whatever it is that we're working on and whatever it is that we're trying hard to make great. And, just taking a step back and saying, hey, I do this because it's awesome. And it's so fun. And I love it. And being grateful for the fact that we can, right? So I love that. I am so glad that you're here. And hopefully we'll have a few more people join next week. Like I said, if you have any thoughts on, feel free to send me a message. I am always open to feedback. I'm always getting messages and things like that about, like, hey, it'd be really cool if we could do this, or it'd be really cool if we could do that. So if you have any thoughts, let me know. Otherwise, feel free to participate in all of the practice challenges. Like I said, they're going to be very similar to this, just very, very easy, right? Something that you can incorporate for just a couple minutes a day, and build on that flute playing. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see ya.